Hello, Mike.
Hey, Robbie, how are you?
I'm good.
You got any podcast topics or anything? I mean, I'm strictly, I'm out.
Yeah, me too. I ran out a long time ago when we did that dog cast.
I'm drained dry, man. There's just nothing.
Drained dry. There's only so much you can talk about, with people and sports and triathlon. And yeah, I mean, I had a pretty boring weekend. Didn't really see anything fun and exciting, and just typical blasé.
I mean, yeah, I just a lot of hotel time and a lot of staring at the walls.
Yeah, I mean, and I just chose to kind of stay in my room too. And who likes to connect with people anyway? It's so boring and monotonous, and just gives you nothing to talk about. All
right, well, that wraps up episode number 92 of
Thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you on Thursday.
If you can go in the Crushing Iron closed Facebook group and give us some topic ideas next time, we're going to love it. We'll appreciate you.
Good luck on the response, though, because that group's pretty boring itself. We haven't had anybody post in there in like 4 months. So thanks again.
Like 4 minutes. That group is blowing up right now, but it's a cool thing. Anyway, geez. Talk to me about 70.3 Worlds, man. You were on the ground in Chattanooga and saw some probably amazing stuff down there.
Man, it was it was an awesome trip altogether. I saw a ton of people. Had a lot of friends racing, had a lot of people I've worked with in the past racing, had a lot of people that I've done swim analysis for this year raced, had athlete racing, and it's in as close to hometown as you're going to get. Hour and 45 for a world championship away from your town is pretty awesome, and it did not disappoint, as Chattanooga really never does. When it comes to outdoor sports and recreation, it pretty much delivers. And it was great. It was awesome to see so many people there. The town always embraced it. And I don't think I really I definitely got the feel we were at a world championship event with the kind of people that were around and raced yesterday with the females, the new 2-day event, and the females going on the first day. I don't think it really kind of set in until we were up on the bridge watching the female pros, Pike and Allie and Hayden and I just looked over to my right and there was Dave Scott sipping on his coffee, and then looked over to the left and there was Jesse Thomas with like bedhead and just cruised up on his Diamondback, just chit-chatting about dynamics with their binoculars and coffee and which is pretty cool. And, I was like, I think Dave was there coaching her as like an Ironman liaison or whatever. But Jesse said, he's like, yeah, I just, I didn't really plan on coming out, but, woke up and I knew I couldn't go back to sleep. So I just figured I'd ride down and watch, and then he's competing the next day, as a pro. So it was just, it was neat. He saw a ton of people.
Isn't that cool? Like I think at the core of it, I think to me, it's like we all sort of embrace this thing about triathlon, and it's just sort of that community vibe that you just want to talk about stuff like that. I walked by, after the award ceremony day, I walked through the lobby, and I just kind of walked by Starkowitz. He was talking to some guy, and I overheard just a sentence, and he was talking about where he gets his deals on, like, where he can get deals on Cliff Bars. It's just like, and that sounds like what you're talking about with Scott and Jet or whatever. It's like, did you said Dave Scott right now to Alan?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's like, just kind of shooting the breeze about triathlon, and it's just fun to dive into. It's a whole new world, and that to me is what gives it the ultimate juice. There's never really an answer, the perfect answer.
That's so true. I mean, that's basically exactly how I left the weekend. I left leaving humbled, watching all of the just insane performances from the athletes there, and incredibly motivated, both as an athlete and a coach. There's always work to be done. But yeah, it was a great environment to be around. Again, the venue was just fantastic. and made me want to do, pretty much any race in Chattanooga, just because of the backdrop and how the city really opens their arms. Literally every place we went, people were nice. And that was the overwhelming response I got from basically every other athlete that attended, was just how awesome, like, the people at the all the way from like the people at the airport to the restaurants to the Uber drivers to the hotels. They were just like, you'd think, oh, how are they going to handle it with 2 weeks back to back? And they're like, dude, bring it on. We actually have a friend that lives there. He used to live in Nashville, and he's been there for, 4 months. And he met us for coffee and watched some of the race Sunday morning. And he knew like every fourth person on the street. Yeah. I was like, dude, are you like, run for mayor? He's like, no. He's like, everybody here's just like, they want to know who you are. They like talking to people. They're like, I was like, man, but yeah, it was a great place. The weather was spectacular. Course was fair. Things panned out pretty much, I thought, as predicted. But yeah, it was awesome. Very, very cool experience, and glad I got to experience with the family.
I'm glad you got to as well, because I know Chattanooga's that way, and I really feel like Madison's that way too. It's they, and even, Mike Riley and Luke McKenzie, both their speeches were both centered on how great it is, what an environment it is, and the same experience. You go into restaurants, whatever it is, that everybody's so nice, and they're so curious. Even as I was leaving this morning, I stopped at a Starbucks on the way out of town. It was kind of away from the city, and I was just, hanging out, waiting for my coffee, and I heard, two of the baristas. They were like, no, they go out towards Verona, and they bike 112 miles, and it was like, it wasn't a nuisance. It was just sort of this like wow factor that everybody has about it. Just they appreciate the what it takes to get there, I think, and they marvel at the accomplishment. And I think that's the center of all of that. And I think Chattanooga respects that. I think Madison respects that, and 99% of the people are just open-armed about it in both places.
Yeah. I think it's like the athletic version of Comic-Con.
That's a good point, yeah.
They're just like, I don't really kind of know what they're doing or why they love this, and they dress kind of weird, but this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, I think they do that, but man, that's great. Like, everybody knew what was going on. And there was another guy I ran into at the coffee shop who ended up following me down to the swim start for the men that I didn't even know. He was like, yeah, I just live here. And I was like, oh, look, sports. I guess I'll just kind of go check it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what's so great. And like put our athlete in his tracker, and like, just like everybody there wants to be around stuff like that. So yeah, they obviously made a great choice. I doubt they come back in 2020. I think it is when Worlds comes back to the U.S. I'm sure they'll rotate it again, but I think it'll do a ton for the city of Chattanooga, which I think is awesome, and I'm sure it'll do really good things for both the regular 70.3 and the full that go on there every year in terms of registration and piquing the interest from everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm excited to get down there in a couple weeks, and just to experience this flood of good vibes that I got this weekend. It's incredible. It goes so far, and to keep gushing on the experience would be, I don't know. I'm sure if you're there, you just can't even put it into words. It's really, I got actually kind of emotional leaving this morning, because I don't know about you, but like, the morning after the race is kind of a mixed bag for me. It's kind of, I hate the whole thing that the streets are back and there's cars on them and they're not closed off, and it's all gone, and people are kind of limping around. It's a great day to be, celebrate with everybody, but it's also just kind of like, I guess we got to go back to life now. It's sort of this escape,
back to work.
This beautiful escape that you get, standing in, last night I was down there with one of our athletes, Ross, and we were out till midnight and I've been to a couple of them, but to be out there and watch the last finisher come through, and how many people were still there just pounded on the sideboards, the advertising. It was just this loud party celebration kind of vibe, and it's just, it kind of chokes you up. I mean, people say that, but it's like, wow, man. You see the people that finished last, and then somebody came through with 2 minutes left, and then everybody was just screaming, looking up at the chute, hoping one more person would come through, And Mike Rowley's going, if you're over there, if you can hear me, come on, you got it, And everybody's just hoping, but unfortunately, nobody came through. I thought Ironman should always put a plant out there and have somebody come around the corner with 30 seconds left. Just make it a feature. It's like, But I don't know. All in all, it was just fantastic. Same deal. Great weather, and it's unfortunate people in other parts of the country aren't getting that. And it was just a weird dichotomy in some ways, but. Just so great to meet all the people from our group up there. There was so many people that came up to me just from wearing the hat and said they listened to the podcast, and just good, solid people all around. And that's again what I posted this in the group, but that's what it is to me. It's just people that appreciate and like to talk about triathlon and like to be better and get better in life and whatever, but. That's at the core, man, and you could just feel it. I don't know. I just had a whole different kind of vibe or perspective, I think is the best way to put it, on the whole event. Even though I've always loved them, going through it this way and hearing the kind of things that people say about the podcast and just how. They really got stuff. They really get stuff out of them, but they also just like it, and they like the people in the group. And there's a good, there's a good chemistry forming. And at the core, that's what it's all about for me.
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome to run into some fellow Crushing Iron listeners and some of the closed group members, and it's it was hey, and talk in person, and they're all just that's what, like I said, there's everyday Joes, and to, have an athlete, meeting our athlete, one of mine, and lived out in Nevada, and, and meeting him and hanging out with him and having dinner with him Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday, lunch, like at the Irish pub after we headed out of town, like we just kind of already knew each other. And, seeing another guy there from China who was in town, who stopped me and was talking about the podcast, and and it's just great to meet so many genuine people in person, I get that this podcast is something that you listen to, and it's something that it's digital, and but it is, I think, and is proven to be a avenue for connecting with people face to face. And being comfortable and just hanging out with people all day long. And I don't necessarily think, and I just don't believe that all, media and technology is geared towards that. And just the fact that our podcast has been fortunate enough and had such, a great group, a core group, and just, of listeners and people and athletes that have gravitated towards it for whatever reason. And then to be able to meet him and just chit chat and talk for 30 minutes, like we've known each other for days. It's like, it was, he'll never know it, but it was like Hayden was like a celebrity. Oh, like, yeah. Oh, it must be like little Hayden. I'm like, yeah. It's like he's got no idea these random strangers know who he is, but we talk about him I talk about him on the podcast, and he's makes his appearances in the videos for 100 Days to Louisville, and yeah, I mean, it's just great. It's even not just a sport that can be so lonely, but in a world where it can be so isolating and you really don't have to connect with people if you don't want to. It was great. Saturday was probably the day that I enjoyed. I don't want to say it was no business for me on Saturday. It was more spectating and soaking in, and then Sunday was just straight business mode because I had athletes felt like in every corner of the U.S., which is just, anxiety and excitement and every other emotion in between. Yeah. And then somebody racing there, and then people in Wisconsin and people in California and Kansas and just all over. with first timers and people completing their first Ironman and people trying to really place high, and it's just it's a wide variety of emotions and ups and downs, and and then to meet people and communicate and get emails and see the stuff on Facebook, it just really kind of feels like it's all kind of come together. And like you said, I think you posted on Facebook in our closed group a little bit ago, it's like, it just makes me that much more excited for Louisville. Like, and not just to race, because I'm excited about that, but to just like meet more people. Yeah. It's like hang out with more people, introduce myself, and just connect with more people, which I think is it's so important.
Yeah. And I would like to say that the interesting part to me about everyone I met that I hadn't met that has listened to the podcast is like our conversations in person were just sort of like this conversation we're having right now. It wasn't like, it was just like people were like, yeah, I like the podcast, man. You guys are just, it's just cool to lay back and whatever. I mean, it was all laid back. There wasn't any kind of like overtone or some kind of like fakeness or whatever. People just like, hey, what's going on, dude? and I love that, it was just wasn't shit. But anyway, same thing. I hope if you're thinking about going to Louisville, just come on down and meet a bunch of the people, man. It's like I knew a ton of people up there, and I was running around shooting video and moving and shaking and stuff like that. And as some people started coming in, people have their families there, and it was kind of weird. Even though I knew like 25 or more people up there, I sort of like every once in a while felt how it can be lonely. Or it's like I had all these people around me, but even still, it was sort of like, where do I go right now? What should I do? And I just kind of meandered around and always ran into somebody. So it's cool. That experience when you know a lot of people through this podcast or through the group or whatever is just cool, and everyone's just so welcoming. But anyway, let's. You want to quickly go down and just maybe tell us what. I'll do the same, and you can just start. We can go through like, what did you hear about any feedback about the different portions of the race? Based on what we were thought going in.
The swim, it was wetsuit legal for the age groupers and not wetsuit legal for the pros. But they did drop the flow back way down Saturday. It was a little bit more stiff on Sunday for the men. I heard the water was incredibly warm, and that they may or may not have been quite generous in where they dropped their thermometer. But it is a world championship, and that they may or may not have catered to, some of, wanting everybody to finish and do well. But, fair swim course, made a little bit easier with the, ability to wear wetsuits. Bike course, no joke. Very fair. And then run course, humbling. I think a lot of people, I saw and witnessed and got firsthand a lot of blown loads on the bike. It was world championship, even for, pro and age groupers on both sides, people walking out of transition up the first hill because the bike was relentless. And then, or for the first 25 miles it was. And then the run course was just an animal, and it ate a lot of people's lunch. But fair, and that's was the most popular word used by professionals, age groupers, and other coaches that I spoke to. Was if you want a world championship, you want it to be fair, and you don't want big draft packs. You want to reward the best overall performance and the best all-around triathlete, and that proved quite simple to be on both sides with Daniela Reef and Javier Gomez, just in a class all by themselves. I will say it was incredibly disheartening, and it's kind of shocking and to see Holly Lawrence drop out of the women's race, who was the defending champion, who's been pretty much on a tear ever since she won 70.3 Worlds last year. to just drop out because she had a bad swim and a bad bike and quote unquote just didn't have the fight today.
Oh. Well, yeah,
I mean, I can understand not having the legs and just not being able to do it, but to not have the fight and for that to be your job, like, and it's not like she's racing Kona or saving herself or anything else. Just didn't want to get in the mix. But hey, other than that, as far as the course went, that was what I got from pretty much everybody. Was fair and tough. Was what I got.
Yeah, that's good, man. I'm glad it was tough because it should be at that level. You get into these. There's so many people talk about, they want a fast course and everything, and I just don't understand why, what the point of that is. And, as we were talking about a little while ago, the Wisconsin course, what do we think? Daniel Brecher, pro, held the record. I think it was like 8:30 something.
8:35 or 8:30, yeah, 6 or something.
About 4 or 5 pros yesterday just crushed that record. But Wisconsin's a tough course, and I was thinking to myself, I was really curious to see what Starkey did on the bike, just because of the nature of the turns and the relentless hills and blah blah blah. But he went out and destroyed it at 4:23, I think. But I mean, we'll always kind of marvel at those kind of numbers because all the age groupers that I talk to are just back into that word of being humbled and it's a fair but awesome bike course. It's just tough. So, but anyway, I was, as you know, and I'm sure you were most curious about, was how that wave start swim was going to go.
Yeah.
And I'm still curious about how it went. I tried to ask. I mean, I have been to that race 5 times, including 2 races, and I've spectated, I think, 3 times. And I should have went to the athlete meeting to kind of get a grip on how they were going to do it, because I got down there and normally you just file down into the water from the helix, but this year they corralled people off to the other side along the grass. And so I got kind of pinched in the V between those 2 locations. So I was right there at the arch and had video of everybody moving up into the corral. They started with the pros, and then what they called the second corral. I guess the pros were the first, but so the first group of age groupers was in a corral waiting for the cannon. And as soon as the cannon went off, they raised a rope, and then 500 people or so got into the water, and the cannon went off 5 minutes later.
Sounds like Black Friday.
Yeah, it was a little bit like that. I was trying to reserve judgment because it took away what I think is an amazing spectacle, but I guess that's not the point of this. But so what I found interesting, so what happened was the third corral, which I'm just going to say second, the second group of age groupers slid up to the line. When the cannon went off for the first corral, they all filed in, and then it became this. They were trying to do it in 5 minutes, and they said there was going to be a buffer for 10 if they needed it, but I don't think they used it. But so the second corral got launched. Instead of with a cannon, it was that one of those air horns.
Yeah.
And everybody just sort of didn't move.
Yeah, because you probably thought it was somebody spectating.
Yeah. And then Mike Riley starts screaming, "Go, go, go, go." I'm like, awesome. Oh, boy. So, and then the third one went in, same type of thing. But that's when it started feeling like, hurry up, 2 minutes or whatever. And there's still people out of the water. No warm-up swim, no anything. And the people are kind of just trying to get into the water and start within like a minute or something like that. And anyway, that's kind of how it went. And then they got the cannon figured out. And then the next one was an air horn again and scream. So I think in general it went remarkably smooth from my perspective.
Yeah.
But overall, what I was curious about the most was, because I was out there the day before, the water wasn't freezing, but it was, in the 60s. It was cold that morning, 40-something degrees. And to be in a corral situation where you can't even probably flail your arms to loosen up or anything, I thought it was going to be interesting to see how people started that race and like how many people were hanging on kayaks within 100 yards. You know what I mean? Just because of the anxiety and the blood flow and who knows what else. But I asked somebody else that was sitting up on the helix and had a view of it, and she told me that quite a few people were hanging out early or treading water or whatever, and then what happened was the next wave of fast swimmers would come over them, and there was a lot of that business. And and even I heard from some faster swimmers who said that they'd have a lot of nice clean water, and then they'd hit a snag where they would be catching up to the next group, and then they get through that, and then they'd have a snag. So there was a lot of that going on. I don't know. I couldn't really tell if it spread things out for the bike. It didn't seem like it. It seemed like they trickled in, and then all of a sudden everyone was coming in, one after another, you know?
Yeah.
And so I didn't go out to the bike. I just, it was one of those things where I was shooting video, and by the time everybody sort of got out of the water and I got a few more shots, we went and ate breakfast, and then I looked at my tracker, and Starkey was like an hour and a half out.
Mm-hmm.
It was like...
No nap for you.
No nap for me. So I just kind of went back, charged up, and came back out and started getting on my game with people getting off the bike and then getting on the run. And, you know how it goes. It's like that day goes by, 17 hours or whatever goes by in a flash. And next thing I know, I was out there running around, trying to catch people on the run course, tracking. We had, 17 or 18 people in the tracker, and trying to meet up with as many as I could. But everyone, I don't know how you could not. It was a beautiful day weather-wise. And that's that always brings out throngs and throngs of people up there. And State Street was just a mashed-up, crazy place again. And
it always is.
Yeah, So in all, and then on the run course, it goes that Observatory Hill. Demoralized several people I talked to, of course, on the second loops especially, and then that out and back and the river or the lake path and the out and back. But all in all, I thought it's one of those tough fair courses that brings out the best or worst in people sometimes, and I think everyone loved it. I mean, it was a good experience.
That's awesome. Yeah. A great weekend all around.
Yeah, looking forward to getting to Chattanooga and checking that out. We've got some people going down there that I'm excited to see and watch. And then, dude, we're getting close.
Never ending.
Mm-hmm.
All the time. I could use a break, though. These next 2 weeks. Last, it's the home stretch, man. For you Louisville peeps. For you and I. Home stretch. Stay focused.
I know it. Did it pump you up at all a little bit to get going? Did you go out running after you saw all that stuff?
I ran Saturday, as you know, on the treadmill with Tim Don.
That's right.
Yeah, I dusted him. I'm fairly confident my treadmill was at least a half inch in front of his. But
I know 12 hours before his race.
I know he was saving it. Yeah, whatever. I will say it was great seeing him do that because, as you know, you gave me a hard time last year in Wisconsin for heading to the treadmill the night before we went to eat. He was like, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And I was like, "Yeah, got to get it in." Even if it's 10 minutes, I like doing mine on the treadmill, waking up my legs, soft. I
thought we were running on the bike path. When did you? Was that?
No, we biked and then we went straight to bike check-in. Remember, because we had our shoes and our bikes with us, and so we walked our bikes up and checked them in because we were already down there.
Oh.
I can't. But we ran the day before that, or I did again on the treadmill. But anyway, yeah, I'm focused. I don't want to say I'm more motivated. I think I'm just more focused. Just to keep staying consistent. So I didn't miss any workouts. I definitely had yesterday as an off day, and I needed one anyway from the big week that I had put in and standing on my feet all day for 2 days straight, putting in about 40,000 steps, not including the running. So yeah, all up and around doing a bunch of stuff Saturday and Sunday, and coming off my my lab century effort on Thursday. I was due for I was due for a rest before I get back and hit those 3.5-hour runs this week.
Yeah, I had an interesting revelation about just spectating. I don't think I go theory on this one, but
okay. Well, people like your theories.
It might be a theory. That I did the same thing. It was I think it was at the swim around 6 a.m. and I left the final finisher chute about 12:30 in the morning, or 12:30 a.m. So a good solid 18-hour day out of me, basically walking around, shooting video, doing the whole thing. And I woke up today less fatigued and sore than I normally do after spectating. So I think I might be.
Is that a good sign you're in pretty good shape?
Well, it might be a sign that I'm in maybe a little bit better shape than I have been at certain times.
Hey man, load that up in Training Peaks, man. 15 hours, time on the feet.
I wish I had my watch going.
Yeah, well, that's all right. You can always put it in as you want anyway.
Yeah. My buddy Ryan told me, one of our C26 group, he said he hit restart about 40 miles out on the bike or something.
Mm-hmm.
Lap. He had a lap, so his transition time was 52 minutes or something. So he's kind of bummed about the lap. I thought it was interesting, too, at the awards. I didn't know they did this, but they handed out awards for longest transition. Did you ever see that? Yeah, it was.
No, but I know quite a few of my athletes, unfortunately, are probably in the running for that.
Some guy was in T1 for 52 minutes or something like that. And
looking for his toe cover?
I don't know. It might have been. And Mike Riley said, but he must have learned a lot out on the bike because he cut his second T2 time down to like 13:18 or something like that.
Wow, PR.
But I thought that was pretty awesome that they led with that. That was like the first award.
Wow.
And then they had some guy, I think he was 80. He, they gave out swim awards, fastest out of the water, and he won.
Yeah.
For 80-year-old guy. It was kind of cool. He went up there and got kind of emotional. He started tearing up a little bit because of all the support he's gotten. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. So
good stuff.
It's great stuff. Great stuff. So anyway, let's wrap that up. We're gonna have a lot more to talk about.
Yeah.
A
lot of things to go through on our release on Thursday.
Yes, for sure. We've thought, as we said, we think we got about 4 podcasts worth of material built up on this weekend. We'll drill down into it a little bit more, but thanks again to everyone that said hi in Madison and who I got to know. It was great to meet everybody, and I hope you can spread the words to people that you dig and get them in the closed group, the Crushing Iron Facebook closed group, which is Crushing Iron Group in the search bar.
Mm-hmm.
We'll let you in and get in the conversation. And again, if you're anywhere near or debating going to Louisville, just do it. Come on down. Let's have a good time. We'll see what we can do out on that course.
Yep, we sure will.
With several other athletes that we're bringing.
Yes, bringing the herd.
Yep. All right, anything else, buddy? You gonna
That's
go?
it, man. Look, talk to you guys on Thursday. Keep up the good work. And as usual, if there's anything you need, reach out, and we'll be happy to get back to you.
Absolutely. All right. Good talking to you, man.
See you, man.
See you soon. Bye.